Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, to a special edition of The Final Cut. Yes, 15 years we've been on the YouTube, and like I did for the 10th anniversary, I have asked my wonderful Spoiler Room crewmates if they'd like to do a final cut and review a movie of their choice that we would watch and review. So, sometimes out of my wheelhouse, sometimes films that I wasn't aware of, and sometimes they're films that were on my list. I never got around to watching them, but like tonight's, I finally got a chance to, and I can't think of anyone I would, rather kick off our 15th anniversary specials of The Final Cut than the lovely Andrew Shearer of Gonzorific Films. Hello, Andrew. Thank you for joining me on this special episode.
Mark, thank you for allowing me to be part of your happy anniversary. Happy anniversary. Speaking of kickoff, a lot of people die in the movie we go and talk about, but I won't say too many spoilers.
Not too many spoilers, though. This isn't like the spoiler room too much, but yes, folks, for these special series, it's actually Mr. Andrew's inspiration that we have taken here. And so we will be reviewing films from the year we started YouTube, which was 2006. So tonight we are looking at Snoop Dogg's Hood of Horror. Yes, that's right, folks, from 2006. And Mr. Andrew Shearer, would you tell our kind folks out there a little synopsis of the Hood of Horror?
All right, so Snoop Dogg's Hood of Horror, 2006, directed by the late, great Stacy Title. This is pretty much what it kind of sounds like. You've got Snoop Dogg playing the Crypt Keeper, and there's a wonderful animated introduction where we get to find out how he became the Crypt Keeper as he is in this, and then followed by three different stories, and they are equal parts frightening and gory and fun to watch.
Yes, it is another anthology film right up there with your Tales from the Crypt and the like. And it's interesting that this came out in 2006 because you hadn't seen too many anthology films. This is, that was kind of the rage in the 80s for a while when those came out, and you had those animated sequences. And I'm glad you brought it up, Andrew, because I love how this film opened with this wonderful animated sequence that reminded me of how Crypt Keeper, how Tales from the Crypt opened, but also it definitely had a McFarlane almost feel to it with the animation style. What'd you think of that animation opening?
I loved it, man. I same reason as you. I really thought it, because you go into a movie like this, you're thinking, okay, well, I've seen Tales from the Hood, Rusty Cundiff's
Right.
movie, because that had come out earlier, and so you're like, well, what are they going to do differently? But they went really kind of comic booky with this, whereas Rusty Cundiff's film was a little bit more like, I don't know, maybe sort of HBO Tales from the Crypt style.
Mhm.
This went back a little bit more of like kind of EC style. And what better to have a comic book reference than to have art at the beginning of it? And so the animation I felt very strong. The subject matter also very strong, not
Mhm.
too funny actually. If people were wanting to laugh, you have someone who's responsible for the death of a family member in a very violent manner in the beginning of this film, and that is definitely something very realistic. And so an interesting way to start off a movie that is more playful than what happens at the very beginning. But the quality of animation reminded me of anime a little bit too,
Mhm.
and it just extremely strong, extremely strong.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I've always admired about Snoop Dogg is, yes, he's hip hop artist, rapper that he's known about, but he never let that define him as just being the rapper. He's artist. He's been in a lot of things. I mean, people were like, holy crap, he paired up with, Martha Stewart, but everybody loves when they're together. I mean, he's definitely an artist, and that comes through here. They're making a film here that's definitely got its own identity and voice, to where you can see the influences on these three films and the wraparound story with Snoop Dogg as the crypt keeper, if you will, the Devon, the HOH, but at the same time, it's got its own identity. And I thought they handle that really well in this film.
Yeah, no, you know, I don't, when I think about it, I really don't think about those other movies. It really
Mhm.
kind of is its own thing. And I think it's because of Snoop. You know, he's a great fan of horror, and you can tell that by just the zeal in which he plays this and how ever present he is in the whole movie. This is not a movie that was shot without Snoop and then we tack him on to get
Right.
a big name out there. And plus, in terms of playing villains, I mean, I believe he played Bones before this movie was out.
Mhm.
Jimmy Bones, really, really, I mean, he is very scary in that movie.
Yeah.
And then, and I don't remember the year, but Baby Boy by John Singleton. Snoop is probably, his character in that is the most terrifying character he's played to date. And
Sure.
that was not it wasn't supposed to be a horror movie, but his character in
Mhm.
that is terrifying.
Yeah, and I love it in here, and you're right. With this animated opening that we get for his character, it sets it up to let you know the tone that you're going to have. In that, yeah, there are playful shorts, but his character making him probably have the most serious origin story outside of the first story we get involving Posey. Um, you know, it sets him up so that you take him for real. And I'm glad they did that because he gets the most brutal story as well, even though it's animated. And you've put him in context, so then when he shows up, it's gonna go down. Stuff is gonna go down and go sideways. And I just love his approach to this character. He's very charismatic anyway, but I didn't see him as Snoop Dogg. I saw him as this narrator, this crypt keeper, this controller of bringing souls to hell, with his buddy Half Pint. uh
Yeah.
and I like the three stories. I think some people might be turned off going, oh, since it is it considering the stories that are being told, oh, it's going to be slamming one side or the other, because race enters into it in the second film, in
In a big way,
the
yes.
second story in a big way. But what's interesting about that story with the asshole scumlord, as he's referred to, I believe that's what the short is titled to, is the fact that they managed to contextualize his character so that they're not saying, hey, everybody is like this, who is, not a person of color. They're like, this guy's an asshole. It's this guy, and
Yeah.
I thought they handle that material very well because you could see it where it would be very easy, but they managed to they're just telling horror stories. But the way I took it, they're just telling horror stories from a different perspective, I think, from a different voice. Is that
Yeah.
your take with it as well?
Yeah, because at this time, we had yet to really enter the renaissance of black horror that we have been experiencing since Get Out, really.
Hmm.
And so there seemed to be this kind of obligation to address kind of social issues with this stuff, but this wasn't as heavy-handed as Tales from the Hood was.
Right.
By the time you get to the end, the final act of Tales from the Hood, it is no longer like the kind of playful horror. That
Hmm.
last segment is extremely serious, and it's wearing its message on its sleeve, and it does
Hmm.
some really heavy moralizing, which I haven't seen it in a while, so I don't know how well that plays, but I can remember back then the tonal shift was a little much for the audience at that
Right.
time, So it's like, okay, well, who are you exactly addressing here? But you want them people to express what they're doing. And Rusty Cundiff, I mean, coming from Fear of the Black Hat is, you definitely like, whoa, it showed his range as a
Sure.
director. But in this one, yeah, I mean, there's racism addressed in that
Hmm.
second one, but more than that, though, the subject of like black on black crime or neighbor against neighbor, things like that. All of that, I think, is more prevalent in this than any
Hmm.
sort of thing about race. As a matter of fact, if you compare Corbin Burnson's character in Tales from the Hood to the scumbag landlord, the
Yeah.
redneck, I mean, this guy's a cartoon of a racist.
He is. He and his girlfriend. He was played by Anson Mount perfectly, like the way you wanted this guy. He was just, yeah. He was a
You hated
caricature.
him.
Yeah. Oh,
But that was
instantly.
their way.
Mhm,
Yeah, and that was their way also of like establishing who he was, making the audience really hate him, and so that
mhm,
you really want to see. I mean, these anthologies, horror anthologies, a lot of them are about comeuppance and
mhm.
revenge and just desserts and all that stuff. And so you wanted to see something horrifying happen to him, and it really kind of, I wouldn't say justifies, but
Mhm.
horrifying things happen. I don't know. Would you say the Scumlord is the grossest one? I think it's the
Yeah.
grossest one.
Yeah, it's the grossest one, the caviar scene, and not to spoil too much, but the caviar scene, yeah, it was unexpected, and I was just like, "Oh, they went all the way with that
It
scene."
okay, yeah. It's really gory, and
Mhm.
but I don't know if I have a favorite necessarily, but I really I did enjoy Crossed Out quite a bit because that one really surprised me. It didn't end the way I thought it was going to.
No, Crossed Out was great, and speaking of terrifying, Danny Trejo shows up in here. This cast in this film is awesome, who they've
Yeah,
assembled,
yeah.
either in minor roles or major roles, and Danny Trejo is flipping just scary in this film, the character he plays in Posey, and it's great because that short it was a great way to open it, and it didn't go the way I thought it was going to, the lesson that was being taught there, and I loved that, and each one of these, I mean, the middle one, yeah, the middle one I gathered that's, the way it was gonna play out. Thankfully, it is the way it played out because that guy
Yeah.
totally deserved everything. But the other 2, I think, played out a little bit differently than I thought they were going to, in a great way because there was a lot of message there. Like you said, with Tales of the Hood, it wore it on its sleeve, but here they approach it just a little bit differently, to where there's still message in here, but it's not like slamming you over the head, and it's like more just telling these stories, with morality plays is what they actually are.
Yeah, and it really fed into that EC Comics thing because you've got your
Mhm.
one that's like a that is a there's a lesson to be learned from it. You got your one that is like a revenge,
Mhm.
absolutely writ large tale, and then you've got the dead returning to life,
Yeah.
and those are the staples of the EC of Tales from the Crypt and all of that.
Mhm.
Those are the staples.
Yeah, I mean, I loved Billy D. Williams in the first one. I thought he was great showing up in here, and, Daniela Alonso, I think she, played Posey. She was
Oh,
fantastic.
yeah, she was in the second Hills Have Eyes, not the
Mhm.
Wes Craven one, but the sequel
Right.
to the remake. She was in Wrong Turn 2 and one of the other. It's not a Saw sequel, but it was like kind of The Collector.
Mhm.
She was in The Collector also. God, why do I know this stuff?
Because you're
Maybe she'll hear this and be like, "There's my one fan."
you're awesome like that, and then, the cast in here they assembled was great too. I don't understand why people, I mean, if you go by IMDb with the rating on this, I don't understand because this film is solid. I enjoyed this film from cover to cover. And fun seeing the cast. Ernie Hudson shows up in here with a wonderful cast of the veteran soldiers who have to deal with the racist a-hole. Um,
Yeah,
I loved all those actors. I loved them all. With
yeah. If
Richard
only they
Grant
could have put
Tucker,
that.
huh?
If only they could have put them in VFW instead. Or better yet, Bubba Hotep.
Oh
Like
God.
I
Yeah.
love that group of guys, man. They're
Oh
all
yeah.
Vietnam veterans, all black veterans.
Yeah, and they were just great characters, and I mean Ernie Hudson himself. I love Ernie Hudson. I think he's just a wonderful actor in so many films. He puts it all, and I really everything I see him in is just yeah. I love so seeing him in here, and then yeah, that last one as well. The story we get with the hip hop artist and DDP showing up in actually a serious role, the wrestler, he's in here, and it was great seeing him because I always loved him, and I thought he did well too. Everybody on the whole, folks, and uh, we won't go too much longer here, but this is a film that's fun. I mean, if you like these anthology films of like Tales from the Crypt, Dark Side, all of those, Twilight Zone, this fits right in, and it's got a great production value. There's a lot of fun moments, gross moments, some exploitation moments. It's got it all in here. You could tell that they are lovers of horror who made this, and the soundtrack is friggin' fantastic. I love the music in this. When I got done watching the movie, I looked up the soundtrack so I could listen to the final track on here, and then there's the opening track, which has a wonderful guitar riff before it busts into the same rap, from Snoop Dogg. And yeah, I highly recommend it. And yeah, I'm giving it 5 stubs across the board with this one.
Cool, man. I'm so glad you liked it, dude. I think people look at stuff like this and go, "Oh, that's just a ripoff of Tales from the Hood or whatever." But that's people honestly that either haven't seen it or they watched it knowing just they'd already made their mind up when they watched it. That's what that is.
I agree. I mean, it's definitely its own beast. Yeah, it's got some influences, but it's definitely its own character. And yeah, I'll watch it again. I'll find myself watching it again because I had a lot of fun. So great pick. I'm glad you picked this and got finally watching it because it was one of those I'd always see it. I'm like, well, I'll watch it later. Because I like Snoop Dogg. So yeah. Very cool, man.
No, I wouldn't steer you wrong, man. And plus, I just had Stacy Title on my mind because she just passed away back in January.
Yeah.
And so I think it was ALS or something like that took her. But her final film was The Bye Bye Man, which went to theaters. I don't believe this one did, or The Last Supper, which is a classic from the 90s. And so it was great to see her at least get to experience that before she got sick.
Yeah, it is a shame of her passing. Very talented individual. I hear a lot of people talk about The Last Supper quite a bit. I watched it. It's a solid film. Been a long time since I watched it, but a really solid film. So
I don't know if I need to tag this on there or not, but I did get a chance to interview Stacy Title around before Bye Bye Man came out, and I did bring up Snoop Dogg's Hood of Horror, and she's like, I don't really talk about that one. It's not really. So I think there were some issues between her and the producers as far as, but in the making of on the DVD of Hood of Horror, there's no interview with Stacy. You see some her on the set and the behind the scenes stuff, but yeah, there's no that or commentary. So, but one just is left to wonder because her husband Jonathan Penner, who's in the show Survivor, he does have a small role in Hood of Horror. He has a bigger role in Last Supper, but yeah, I don't know. I think now maybe the movie should just get its due. Let's forget all of that and listen to Mark's 5 stubs, man.
Listen to my 5 stubs. Well, thank you very much, Andrew, for bringing this up. Hope everybody enjoyed this extended 15th anniversary edition of this Final Cut. We've got a number of other ones coming up, leading up to our AMA on July 9th at 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. I hope I see people there. And Andrew, as always, I cannot end this without giving you a license to shill, sir. I don't care if it's not the spoiler room. Please, sir, tell folks about your stuff out there that they should watch.
Oh, thanks. Well, my friends and I here in Athens, Georgia, make movies. We were called Gonzorific in 2021. Happens to be our 20th anniversary.
Hey!
So we have been thankfully able to get together and make films. And we've been doing it we've made 3 movies already this year. And so this coming July 31st, we will be at the Southeast Punk flea market. That's what it's called, at the Classic Center. So we'll be, for once, not having to fly out to a convention that supports underground film. We'll be here at home for once. And then in November 12th and 13th, I have not officially announced this yet, but we're pretty sure that will be our 20th anniversary screenings of the movies that we've made recently, and maybe some surprises. But yeah, go to gonzorific.com and all the links are there. It'll take you to the YouTubes, your Instagrams, your face space, everything's you buy stuff or don't, or just be happy we exist, because we are very happy we exist.
Well, we're very happy you exist, Mr. Gonzorific. Thank you to the lovely Andrew Shearer. Hope you folks enjoy this. And yeah, remember, until next time, keep that ticket stub.